7:37 a.m., a silver Ford Fiesta was involved in a collision in front of the Houses of Parliament. The driver of the Fiesta, who was alone in the vehicle, was arrested at the scene by armed officers who were already nearby. The man is in his late 20s and he's been arrested on suspicion of terrorism offences and has been taken to a South London police station where he remains in custody.
Police in London, they're saying the suspect in this morning's apparent terror attack is not cooperating with investigators. We know he's in his 20s. We know his motives were deliberate, and we know this is not the first time this has happened in London. For more now, let's bring in Michael Balboni, former New York State Homeland Security Advisor and Redland Strategies founder. It is alarming that this is not the first time. Is there something British authorities are not doing to prevent this from continuing?
When we take a look at the incident, obviously it was Parliament was trying to create that sense of vulnerability from an attack on the government. It was rush hour, and the reports from the scene is that the individual swerved trying to hit passengers. We've seen in those types of attacks in the past, and it actually accelerated, got it almost up to 40 miles an hour before hitting a barrier. Now, luckily, only a few people, nobody was killed so far, and only a few people injured. But what this shows is that the attacks are continuing, but they are decreasing in their level of sophistication. In fact, take New York. From after 9/11 to 2016, there were no successful attacks in the city, and in an 18-month period, there were 3. One, the bombing in Tribeca, with the Port Authority, the ramming during Halloween. So what you're seeing is less sophistication, but they're trying to do more so that they can spread the fear.
The thing that strikes me about the images from central London is just how much security is there already.
Yeah, exactly.
Barricades and police officers, they have reacted in a significant way,
right,
and for good reason. They've been hit again. Yeah.
Well, the problem with all these types of attacks is that it's virtually impossible to stop it because there's no pre-indicators. There's no actions that someone does beforehand. They're just driving down the road and suddenly decide to do something deadly. And so there's even controversy here in the United States as to how you respond. In fact, there's been just a recent change in the use of firearms as to whether to stop and disable a car, because typically police officers are not supposed to fire at a car because the bullets ricochet and there's lots of other danger. But in these situations, officers now being trained that if it is in fact one of these situations where people are being mowed down, they can use their weapons to try to stop the attack.
How can they say there's no further danger to the public when they're so early on to have so little information?
Well, I guess what they're saying is from this particular incident that he didn't have any other weapons.
That could be.
There were no explosives in the car, and he was alone. So typically when you have a bombing type of situation, you always want to know who else was involved, how did they get the ammunition, how did they get the device. And so there may be a cell. They don't believe that this is a cell. They believe that this type of an attack, so far early in the investigation, as you pointed out, is just indications of one person doing something.
Another story here out of Afghanistan. Islamic State, a warning, harboring intentions to attack the West. This is Afghanistan now. It's not eastern Syria, it's not western Iraq. How do you read that as the possibility of growing strength for ISIS now?
So whenever ISIS or Al-Qaeda, when they have a safe haven to operate, they will operate. And this actual branch of ISIS-K, as they call it, it actually has a reputation for having a very sophisticated understanding of bomb making. And so one of the concerns from the U.S. security forces is obviously aviation, getting into Europe, getting to the United States. And so they're estimated to have about 1,000 fighters there. But what happens here is the significance of the establishment of a caliphate is that you begin to spread that message through social media, that you can get followers to say, no, the resistance is still happening, we're still involved, and we can still perpetrate attacks overseas.
What has and how did they manage to rear their ugly heads, if you will? This administration and ISIS overall, I mean, we have made huge strides since the past administration in wiping out ISIS. Are there any loopholes, any areas in which perhaps were ignored?
Well, a lot of it is the basic thought of you can't kill an ideology. As bizarre as it might be. And so the extremism is still feeding and still fueling the interest of other people to come into this fight. Now, we've told people not only are we going to aggressively go after any type of organization like this and take them out, but we've also had stories as to how horrible the life is to go and join these people. So there's no benefit in it. But again, on the internet, folks who are susceptible to that kind of message, they are going, that's really the danger from this type of a group. that they could take matters into their own hands.
Something to watch for a long time. Maka Bamboni, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great to see you.